Praise the Lord. Again, it's a privilege to be here to share the word. As and when I prepare, the Lord speaks to me as I'm preparing, and it's always something that either reminds me or is teaching me as I prepare to share with you. And as I always say, it's a big responsibility because I have to be sharing what He wants and not what I am interpreting. And so today we're looking at God meets we are. And I always keep saying this, and when Pastor shared this topic, I was like, oh, this is something I keep telling people. Always say, God meets us right where we are, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's spiritual. He never speaks to us as if we are not up to mark. Wherever we are, He comes to us and speaks to us. And that's the beauty and magnanimity of our God. He doesn't have to come down to our level. He can always be there and say, you come, but never. He's always there coming to meet us where we are. And when this topic came, I was like very thrilled to elaborate on it. And we're looking at the portion of Luke chapter 2, verses 8 to 21. As we're in the Christmas season, we've been, a lot of our passages has been based on, the birth of Christ. And this is also one such, situation or one such incident. So picture with me, I'm going to paraphrase and kind of explain the thing instead of reading the portion. We've all seen nativity play and all of that. And sometimes this portion is also enacted, but many times not. So this is like Jesus is born. He's there in the in the manger. Joseph and Mary are there, and the three kings are on the way because they've been traveling for many months. And there is a lovely hillside where the sheep pens are there and the sheep are there, and there are a whole host of shepherds sitting there with the sheep, keeping watch over the sheep so that no wild animal comes and kills or takes away the sheep. And I'm sure they must have had a small fire over there, and they must have been sitting around it. Some guys walking around that side, few of them sitting and chatting over here, and must have been a cold night because it was December. So they would have had a small fire huddled around it, and just going about their daily work. And this was at the night, because this was the night shift, I would say, that they were taking care. And just imagine, suddenly one huge light, and one angel appears, and then I'm sure they must have, I would have been there, I would have taken off running. They would have been scared, and they're looking at this angel, and it's night, so you can imagine how bright the light would have been and all of that. And then the angel says, don't fear not. And then he says, no, come with good news. The Savior has been born, and he's in Bethlehem. And they were also nearby. The hillside was near Bethlehem. And they say, okay, you go into the city or the town, and you're going to find this baby. And how do you find the baby? Baby's going to be in a manger. It's a kind of a small shed below the house. And the manger is actually the trough in which the food or water is given to the animals. So that is where you're going to find, and you're going to find the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes. That is strips of clothes wrapped around the baby. In some of our culture also, you see, they tightly wrap the baby so that the baby cannot move. So it's more for a safety measure. So the angels say that, and not just one, then suddenly one host of angels comes. That's about 1,000 angels. One only was so scary. Imagine 1,000 angels over there. And the shepherds have a live choir. The angels are singing, glorifying God. And then the angels go back to heaven. And can you imagine the shepherds? They were like shocked first. Then they were thrilled that they had this news. And they immediately say, let's go look for the baby. And they go down to Bethlehem, and they find the child. And of course, once they see the child, they come back praising, and they tell people what they saw. And and the last verse is the 8th day is circumcision. And then, Jesus is circumcised, and he's part of the Jewish community. But the shepherds don't just keep it to themselves. They go praising God and telling people, this is what we saw. God told us this, and it was exactly what he told us that we saw. And I am sure they would have been talking about it for years and years and years afterwards. Their children would have heard it. Their grandchildren would have heard it. Everyone would have heard it. And again, the beauty of this passage, the first set of people who were told about the birth of Christ were the shepherds. The shepherds wouldn't have been given much importance in the Jewish culture. There is speculation that these shepherds were the shepherds who took care of the flocks or the sheep of the temple, which was kept there for sacrifice. But it's not there in the Bible. It only says the shepherds who were, taking care of the sheep by night, right? But God didn't look at, oh, I should go to the high priest and tell him that Jesus is born. God didn't look at saying, okay, let me go to the King Herod and tell him, because these were the top people, right? I mean, in your house, if something good happens, who do you pick up the phone and tell? Normally, it's somebody in high position. You want to go make an impression, who do we pick up the phone and call? But here, God is proclaiming to the shepherds who were the very lowest in the cadre, if you look at it from a hierarchy point of view. But he chooses them. And he just doesn't just tell them. There's angels who come, not one comes and tells, and then there are 1,000 angels singing, and really creates a unforgettable moment over there. And from this portion, we're going to look at our topic of God meets us right where we are. So the first thing that came to mind as I was reading this passage in the New Light, I've read this passage many times, I've sung the carol, of the shepherds as they watched the flocks by night. As I was preparing, also the song was running into my head. But the first thing that when I was looking for the message, sitting for the message, the first thing that came to my mind was, are you where you're supposed to be? The shepherds were. They had a night shift. They could have easily said, no, I'm tired, I'm going to go sleep, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or, not looked after the sheep. The wild animals could have come and, eaten them by night. But the shepherds were there. They were right where they were supposed to be that night, right? Otherwise, they would have missed out. Were they running? They could have, are you running away like Jonah? God tells you, go do this. And you're like, no, I don't want to do. And you run away somewhere else. God tells you, go here and you go somewhere else, or you go there. Or are you pursuing your own dreams and agenda? Most of us are stuck in this. God has a plan and a purpose for us, but instead of following that, we are pursuing our own dreams and our own agendas. Okay. I won't say purpose because what we have is agenda. Purpose is only where God is. Your God calls us. Okay. So are you doing what God called you to do diligently? The shepherds were doing it diligently because they were there in the night shift doing their work. And why I'm asking this is because if you're not doing what God, you may be doing what God has called you to do, but if you're not doing it diligently, then there is a little bit of disobedience over there. Then, hearing the Lord can become difficult at that point of time because it's also sin. And when you are where God calls you to be, you might not have an easy time because there may be challenges, there may be problems, there may be, other issues that you're facing, but you will find His peace. We talked about, those who are stayed on the Lord or keeping the Lord first will always be in perfect peace, His perfect peace. And Jesus also told us, right, my peace I leave with you. And that's a peace that you will never understand. I'm going through one of my toughest times for the past 2 years, and there are people, including Pastor, who tell me, how are you like this? Because I'm stayed on Him, because I know what He's doing for me is the best. And whatever He's taking me through, He's preparing me for whatever. Like if you take Abraham, if you take the Israelites who went around and around the same place for 40 years, or Moses, the Lord took them through some difficult times, but He was always with them. And that happens when you are in His will, when you are pursuing His purpose and you are pursuing His calling. I'm not saying you should all go into ministry or anything. No. Sometimes He calls us to be in the secular world, to be the light that nobody else can be. So you will be the one different in a place that's corrupt. Why? Because God wants you to show them what is right. And only through you that they will be able to know the Lord. It could be in ministry. It could be your ministry itself is in the place of work where you are. It could be the secular world. It could be in your own family. It could be in your locality. It could be in your community. It could be in many, many places. A lot of us think ministry means, okay, they have to be a pastor. They have to go evangelizing. No, your life itself is a ministry. So that is part of your calling, but you're also called to be something. Like I'm called to teach and preach. That's the gifting that God has given me. So for me, it becomes naturally. For some people, it is serving in the church in a different manner. It could be elsewhere also that you're doing work. So where is your calling? And if you're in that place, even if you're facing challenges, okay, you will find His peace. Because He will give you that, the faith is already there. You exercise that faith, but He will give you the unshakable, faith and the His peace where everything is going to be fine. You may not realize it when you're standing there, but He gives you that. You can be standing in that problem and still feel, I'm absolutely fine. God knows what's going to happen. He's in control. I'm fine. You don't have to be worried and anxious, and you don't need to be at all. He gives you His provision. Just when you need it, you might have a lack, but just when you need it, He will provide. I know some people who have, like Jonah, who have run away from their calling. God's called them to be in India, but they've gone somewhere else. I'm not judging them, but they sit and think, oh, I don't have the means I need to live here. God never called you to be there. If he's not called you to be there, he doesn't have to provide for you there. But if he calls you someplace and you obey him, he will miraculously take care of your needs. Okay, as you trust him, he will beautifully take care of your needs. I've seen where, I some time ago I invested something. When Jed was going to Germany this year, that matured and came. I didn't even think about it. And I had enough funds to send him and more. Okay, I didn't have to sit and look at, okay, does my income now take care of it? No, he had already prepared it for me. I didn't know. He had already done it, made me do it much. Had I not obeyed him at that point of time, I may not have had the money to send him. So his provision can be something he made you do earlier, or it can be at that minute. Are you trusting him and he's giving you? But if you're in a place of his calling, you will never want anything. That's why David could say, the Lord is my shepherd and I do not want. He didn't say I do not need, because needs are basics. But when you look at want is more than need. And when you trust the Lord, his provision is not just your needs. He gives you wants. He gives you the desires of your heart. But that's when you're in the midst of his will and his calling. Okay? And you will find his protection. Of course, his protection will be there because you're his child. But if you are in the wrong place, the Lord doesn't have to, you can't hold the Lord responsible for protecting you. Jonah went into the belly of the fish because he was in the wrong place. Had he been in Nineveh as the Lord had called him, he wouldn't have been in the belly of the fish. But even in the belly, the Lord protected him because the Lord was still teaching him something. Okay, the Lord, if you looked at Israelites, there were many times, I think more than them being faithful to God, they were more unfaithful to God. But in all of that, the punishment was the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the other countries coming and taking them captive, or keeping them in bondage. But in all of that, the Lord still protected them. He will protect because you're his child. But if you're being disobedient and you open yourself up for attacks, the Lord is not responsible to protect you. You can't go to him and say, why aren't you not protecting me? You are not in the right place. Okay? If you're in the right place, you may still face persecution, but the Lord will protect you. Or he'll give you the strength to go through that persecution. Okay? So in the midst of what is happening, if you're in your calling in the will of God, you will find his peace, his provision, and his protection. Okay? The second thing that we're seeing here is that God reaches us right where we are. Now, the Lord didn't say, okay, who comes to the temple, the sanctuary, I will talk to them. He sent the angels to the hillside where the shepherds were sitting, doing their regular work. Right? So he can reach us where we are, no matter where we are. If you take the prodigal son, he was sitting in a pigsty. Having lost everything, nobody was there taking care of him. He was missing his parents or his father's house. And the Lord spoke to him and said, go back to your father. And he did. Right? You take Haggai. She had run away from Abraham's house because Sarah was mistreating her. And she had left. She thought she and her son are going to die in the desert. And the angel appears to them there. God can reach us wherever we are. In our sleep, he can reach us, because sometimes only then we are listening to him. Otherwise, the rest of the time when we are awake, there's a lot of noise. There's social media, there's TV, there are people, there are our own thoughts. Okay? He can meet people. I've heard people who say, I've been in a coma, and when I came out of it, or when I was in the coma, the Lord spoke to me. So the Lord can speak to us at any point of time, unless we are dead. Because when we are dead, then he can't speak to us. And if you're spiritually dead, he definitely, he can reach us. He can come down to us, but we need to be open. Okay? So he can reach us no matter where we are. So it doesn't matter how bad you are, what sin you've committed, you've done again. He can reach you, and you can reach out to him. Sometimes we feel, I'm sinning again and again, though I'm a child of God, so I won't go back to him. That's the lie that the enemy is telling you. We have a gracious Father who looks at us through the blood of Christ. So he says, if you repent, I will look at you through the blood of Christ, and that's fine. I will forgive you. So don't think you're ever unworthy, or you can never go into the presence of God. Jesus has, through his death and resurrection, torn the veil between the Father and us. So we can go to him no matter how much we have sinned, what kind of a sin we have done. Is it a repeated one? Is it a one-time one? Doesn't matter at all. You can go to the throne of grace and cry out to him, and he will forgive us. Okay? And he meets us right where we are physically. I started with this physically. So the shepherds were sitting in the hillside, and God came to them there, right? And the angels came there. He sent his messengers. Angels are supposed to be God's messengers, right? So God sent messengers to them and spoke to them mentally. So what are your thoughts? I remember when I was, going through a tough situation, I was like, Lord, what am I going to do? And he's like, I'm there. Even in our thoughts, he can speak to us and calm us down. That's the first thing that angels did, right? When they were scared looking at them, the angels realized it. And what did they say? Fear not. Okay, they must have been thinking what it is, or emotionally. If you're upset, and yesterday was my dad's death anniversary, 14th, and I was a little upset, but more missing him rather than questioning God why he's gone or anything. When somebody passes away, no matter what their age, I never say they've gone too soon, because it's in God's perfect time that they've gone. Okay, so but emotionally also, when you're upset, the Lord sends you people to encourage. The Lord gives you verses to encourage. Lord speaks to you. Are we listening? Okay, so you can come to us where we are physically. Think of your salvation. No, I don't think any of us were sitting in church when the message of salvation came to us, or when we gave our life to the Lord. It was not when we were sitting in church. Maybe we heard the message of salvation in church, or somebody else told us wherever. But when we gave our life to Him, when we said the prayer of, I still remember I was in an open ground in a healing ministry that happened in Karaikudi of all places. Okay, He healed me physically, and then I said, okay, Lord, I'm giving my life to you. Okay, and there are a lot of other things that were leading up to it when that happened. Okay, so He can come to us physically wherever we are. It could be in your own home, it could be when you're riding your bike, it could be somewhere else, wherever you are. And even in church, He can speak to you. Absolutely. There is nowhere that He cannot speak to us. Okay, emotionally, He comes to us right where we are and speaks to us. I still remember when I was in Bangalore, I was in a hostel for some time, and I had one small black and white TV, kutti TV, one really small one, and somehow I got God TV in it. Okay, no other, hardly any other channel would come, but God TV would come. And one morning, I was really upset. I was so alone. I was so thin, and I was sitting and crying. And the song that comes, I still remember, Israel Houghton was his name. And the song that he was singing on God TV was Weep Not My Child. I still remember that. I can still picture that room and where I was standing, and how when the Lord, when I heard that song, the Lord was really speaking to me. So He can come to us in an emotion. He comes when you're happy also. No doubt about it. But when we are upset and sad is when we hear Him more, right? When we are more connected at that time. Spiritually, like salvation or your maturity level. Okay, spiritually, I'm talking about. What is it that He speaks to you? There are times He'll give you milk because that's all you can digest. And there are times He'll give you meat because He knows you've grown to a level and you can eat that and digest that. So sometimes the message, when we are preaching here, some of you will get something very, very simple. Some of you will get very, very profound. But it's on the maturity level. It's not He's looking at you and saying, "Oh, this person doesn't need this message." No, you can only handle this. Right? We have little children over here. Some of the things we eat, we cannot give them because they cannot digest. So the same way, your maturity level in the Lord. If you're a child, He'll give you milk. He'll give you simple things because He doesn't want to overwhelm you. And then over time, He'll give you much tougher things to handle because He knows you're growing, you're maturing, and you can handle it. Okay. And nobody else understands or not. God understands us. He understands our current situation and state we are in, and He speaks to us accordingly. If you're at this level, He'll never talk at this level. Okay, He will always come down to your level and speak. We can never reach His level, okay, for sure. So it's Him always coming down to our level, but it depends on which level you're in. It's like, when you're talking to a little child, you don't talk like this. You generally tend to sit down to their level and talk. That is when you can actually connect with them, or you pick them up to your level and speak. The Lord does both. Sometimes He takes you up and talks to you at His level. Many a times He comes down to our level and speaks. Even if nobody else understands you, He does. And that is why in the Psalms, you can see David and other psalmists talk to the Lord about everything and anything. The Psalms are your best examples of what prayer should be. There are times they've been complaining. There have been times they've been crying out. There have been praise. All emotions you can find there. There is fear. There is faith. But that's how the Lord wants us to be with Him. You don't have to go all, with a mask on your face when you, like how you go meet people. With Him, you can actually let your mask down and go as yourself. And He loves and accepts you just as you are. And He understands you much more than you understand yourself. Because He is your creator. He knows you inside out. Even you may not know yourself that much. You might not, you might be hurting in some place and you don't know why you're hurting, but He knows. And He understands, and He comes down and meets you at that level. He doesn't say, no, only if you do this, I'll talk to you. No, he talks to you even when you don't do it, because he's such a gracious and loving God. Okay. The third thing that we look at here is that God gets our attention in the most effective way. The exact way God can get our attention in many, many ways. Okay. There's no one way he'll get our attention, but he will use the one that's most effective for us. The way you will listen to him is how he will use. Okay. For the shepherds, like I said, they would never forget it for the rest of their lives. I'm sure every time they went up to the mountain, especially night, they would have been thinking about it and talking about it. Like, yes, this week, I put up the Christmas tree at home. So as I was putting up the Christmas tree, I was also playing carols. Okay. And a lot of memories came up for me. One was my dad would, the end of November, he would start playing carols every morning. Otherwise, he used to play other music in the morning. But Christmas season, end of November, every morning, at least half an hour, 45 minutes, we would hear carols in the morning. Okay. And so I was remembering him and a lot of things that were coming up because of that. A lot of the carols I learned only because of him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have learned it at all. And then putting up the Christmas tree, thought of my mother. Because my mom was the one responsible for putting up the Christmas tree. We would help and all of that, but majorly her. And then once my mom couldn't do it, it was Jed's job to put up the Christmas tree in our house. And a lot of memories, like everywhere we go, wherever we go, any city or any country we go, we try and find some Christmas tree decoration. Both of us do. Jed and I both do. So I was putting up something he brought from France, from Versailles. And I put it up on the tree and I was like, wow, okay, the child, I have set an example for the child. So a lot of thoughts are going through my head. And then I was thinking, if we can remember these things, the Lord also uses where we are open. If you're closed, he will never talk to us. But if you're open in a particular place, so that's where we go to very often, that's what he uses to speak to us. So one of the major ways he uses is his word. The Bible is how he speaks to us. That's his love letter to us. If you had a love letter, how many times we would read it, right? Every time we felt upset, we wanted to feel happy, whatever we would read. I've got a lot of letters which my parents have written, my friends have written. I've got boxes of it. And I used to write letters to friends. I don't know if my friends have kept it. But there have been birthday cards that have come. There have been letters that have come. And I still now, when I find it, suddenly I'll sit and open it. Like, it'll be fun to read it, how we were then and how we are now. But his word, the Bible, is his love letter to us. How many of us have read it fully? At least once. Okay? Good. If you've done it once, good, but do it again. Right? I've also done it only once. I'm trying to, read it, but I don't want to read it like, because I have to read it. I'm actually now studying. So I read a chapter and I really study it and take notes and stuff like that. So I'm hoping I'll finish reading the entire Bible within the next 2 years, because I'm also studying it. I'm not just reading it for the sake of reading. But the first time I did it that way, I read it for the sake of reading. Okay. And both are fine. It's up to you how you want to do it, but it's his love letter to you. And he speaks to you through his word. So do we sit and read it as his love letter, or do we sit and read, we have to read every day because somebody has told me you're a Christian, you have to pray and you have to read. Okay. So read his word, study his word. More than just reading, study his word. His still small voice. If you're a believer, you have the Holy Spirit in you and he speaks to you. Are we listening? But if you never listen to the Lord or read his word, then he won't use these ways to speak to you. Answered prayers, unanswered prayers. Unanswered prayers is also wait or no, both. Not now, can also be there. Answered prayers, yeah, Angels. I'm not sure if any of you have had angels visit you, but the shepherds did get. There are people who share testimony of, angels coming in their prayer room or they saw Jesus. I'm like waiting, Lord, when? Okay. Creation around you could be a flower blooming. For me, sometimes when I hear the birds singing, in the morning or when it's going to rain, and I'm like, the birds are praising God. Why am I not? It's a reminder for me to praise the Lord. Sometimes you get so bogged down in the daily work, right? You wake up in the morning and instead of sitting to read the Bible or pray or praise the Lord, you jump up and run and do work because things have to be finished on time. Okay? Signs and wonders. Dreams and visions. These are all there in the Bible. Joel talks about, the old people seeing dreams and young people seeing visions. How many of us have dreams and visions? I have dreams. That's the only way I listen to the Lord. So he gives me dreams. On certain things when I pray, he warns me. He tells me this is how the situation is. Sometimes he tells me, no, pray about this. Something's coming up. He speaks to me through dreams. I don't get visions, but I get dreams. But if you're not open to dreams or you don't believe God will speak to you through dreams, he'll not speak to you through dreams. Okay? Prophecy. He'll give a word to somebody. A lot of people don't believe in prophecy because people have misused prophecy in a big way. Okay, but if you do believe in prophecy, then the Lord will use it to speak to you. Okay, miracles and healings. these are also parts of science and wonders, but I'm also speaking about it. Social media, all of us are stuck on that phone, no? Phone has become an extension of us, and every few minutes we're looking at Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp. Nothing else, WhatsApp. There are so many forwards will come now. Telegram has also joined the bandwagon, right? So a lot of new things are coming up, people are using. If you keep scrolling through social media, then the Lord will use it to get your attention. It could be a verse that pops up, it could be a story that pops up, it could be a reel somebody has put. Okay, I think the latest is Jadeja. He has accepted the Lord. He speaks about in one interview how God spoke to him. So that is where what's going around in WhatsApp these days. Robin Uthappa, sorry, yeah. I was looking at too many of those. Robin Uthappa talks about being a Christian and how, as one of also one of the younger politicians saying, I'm a Christian and I'm not afraid to say I'm a Christian. Okay, so all of that, whether they're doing it for sound bites or not, there are, these. So if this is the way you will listen to him, or he can get your attention, he will use it. Okay, open and close doors. I'm not saying because the door is open or closed, it is, but you have to be in the will of God to know that it's him opening the door and closing the door. Okay, sometimes we can close the door and think he has closed it. No. Okay, it can be provision or lack thereof. We talked about it a little earlier. Peace or the lack thereof, that also we spoke about. It can be sickness. Sometimes, unless we are going through trouble, we'll never go to him. So if he wants to get our attention, I'm not saying all the time that is, but a lot of times that's how he comes to us, because that's the only time we'll go cry. Okay, it could be problems, trial, or opposition, because again, that's the only, when we're happy, we'll never go to him. But I'm not saying every time he'll do this. But like I said, what is the effective way he can speak to you? If he can speak to you when you're happy, when you're, everything is going fine, then maybe all of this will not happen. Because you're anyway connected to him and listening to him. Okay? So he gets our attention in the most effective way. Like for me, if he's speaking to me through dreams, to one of you it could be visions. One of you it could be prophecy or the social media, depending on what it is that you are open to listen to him. Because if you never open your Bible, he can never speak to you through the Bible, right? So what is it that you're opening through which he can speak to you? Okay. So he uses the most effective way for each one of us. So different people he speaks in different ways because that's what we're open to. And for the shepherds, it was the angels. The next one, amazing, 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 is we have a God who speaks to us. Unlike in certain other places where it is stone and whatever else, we serve a living God. And when he's living, he speaks to us. He's a master communicator. There can be no one better to communicate. If you talk about effective communication as a training, the best person who can train you is the Lord. The rest of us can only give you parts and bits and portions of what it is, because he knows us and speaks to us in the language we will understand. Okay, so we have a God who communicates with us beautifully. Okay, he speaks to all of us. Don't think, oh, they speak to only pastor, to sister, to X, to Smith who's leading. No, he speaks to every one of us. If we are his children, if you're his child, he speaks to you. Like a father, right? If you have 2, 3 children, you don't speak to only one. As a father, you might do, but God the Father never does that. He speaks to all of us. Okay? He speaks to us about our situation. If you're going through a tough, first, before that only he'll tell that's going to happen sometimes. If you're ready and listening to him, he will tell you. He speaks to us about our situation. Sometimes he warns us, not sometimes, many a times he warns us. It's all about the connection. Are you connected with him and listening to him? He encourages us when you're upset and down. It might be again through a verse. Somebody you've never met for a long time will call and speak to you and you'll be encouraged. It could be a social media post that encourages you. It could be so many things he uses to encourage. He gives us confirmation that this is what it is. This is the right path you're taking, or don't go in this path. All of that, the confirmation comes. And I love this. It's there in the Bible. I've not pulled out the verse, but it says he tells us his secrets. Okay, and the things he's about to do both in our lives and in the world around us. Again, are we listening, or are we letting the noise of the world, kind of overtake his voice? Because you need to be tuned in to be listening to him. And he will tell you. If you are tuned in, he will tell you. Either before it's happening or as it's happening or after it's happened, he'll tell you what you need to do. Or he will encourage you to what you need to do. Okay. I still remember when Jed was born. This was about 22 years ago when I was expecting. I've shared this testimony, but I'm going to share it again, of God speaking to us, specifically or otherwise. So when I was expecting with Jed, I had a very difficult pregnancy because I was working and I had medical complications. So when a I think I was 6 months pregnant. They told me I have to be on complete bed rest because the baby hadn't grown. And I came off home and I was on bed rest and medical family, right? Everything happened. So my dad and my brother talk about, oh, the child might be physically deformed. Now, as a mother, you don't want to hear that, okay? Especially when you're pregnant, okay? My sister was psychologist. Oh, all this complication, mental deformity, okay? You can imagine, as it is, you're going through stuff and you hear all this. Then my mother, a gynecologist, she sleeps with a hand on me in the night because she didn't want me to get fits in for me to go or for the baby to go. Imagine this is the environment I'm living in. And I'm crying out to the Lord, saying, Lord, I waited 7 years to get this baby. If the baby is, I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of a baby you give me, but I'm praying for a baby that will be whole, will be, no retardation, no deformity and everything. I remember sitting in places and crying in my house when no one was around. Okay. And complete bed rest. I can't go out and all of that. And I'm like, Lord, how do I meet you? Where do I meet you? 2, 3 things happen. One, the baby is born through Caesar. And a lot of complications again. My BP was very, very high. And I think 2, 3 weeks before the due date, they did a Caesar. But I had complete peace. I remember sitting outside before I went for my surgery, reading my Bible. I had my small compact NIV. And as I'm flipping open, all the verses I've underlined over the years reading and I've noted down, those are the words I'm reading. And my aunt comes like, how are you so calm? You're going for Caesar. I'm like, what? Okay. And all the others were panicking, but I was calm. And then I was also looking at a name for the child. I said, Lord, you have to give me the name for the child. I want to name the child the name you want me to give him. And I thought I was going to have a baby girl, so I was looking up girl names. Okay, I had a list. I reached out to a friend who knew Hebrew, and I said, please give me lovely names for girls with meaning and everything. And I still remember, as I was reading the Bible or wherever I was, whatever I was reading or looking at, I would take down names. And in the Bible, in 2 Samuel 12:25, there is one name in the Bible where for a boy where the meaning of the word is also given in the below it. It's Jedediah, and it says beloved of God or loved by God. Okay. And when I read it, I didn't know how to pronounce that name. Seriously. I read it. I didn't even stick in my head, but I liked that beloved of God and I left it at that. But I was still looking at girls' names. My friend had sent me a list and I was looking at the list and all that before going for my surgery. Okay. And then I go to into the theater. I won't give you the number of doctors who were there from a doctor's family, 2 pediatricians, 2 anesthetists, 2 surgeons, 3 surgeons. One was standing by, my cousin, 2 surgeons who were doing the surgery. Yeah, and my uncle and my mom, who were doctors, who was too scared, was standing outside. And my dad, who was a doctor, was sitting in a wheelchair there. He had a leg surgery. He was sitting in a wheelchair. All the nurses in our clinic were there. Even those who were on day shift came for the night shift. There was one whole patalam of, people. Few of them tense, few of them doing stuff. Like I said, and I was on spinal, so I was awake. As they were doing the surgery, I was awake. And I could hear them speaking stuff. I could hear them do stuff and all of that. And then the doctor put her hand in and picked up the baby and said, baby boy. And all I heard was Jedediah in my ear. I still get goosebumps when I share this testimony. The Lord gave me the name. And sure enough, the minute the name he gave, by the time we had his christening 1 year later, it was on his first birthday that we had his baptism and christening together because it all worked out for people to come only at that time. There was so much of opposition for me to keep that name. And that was confirmation that was the name I had to keep for him. Okay, but the Lord speaks. So he can speak to you through the still small voice if you're willing to listen. Okay? So he speaks to us. We have a God who speaks to us. Okay? Are we discerning of the signs? The 5th one is, are we discerning of the signs? There will often be signs when the Lord speaks to us. Like I said, the opposition that I had when I knew this was the name I had to keep for him. If I chose any other name, no, I wouldn't have had the kind of opposition I had from everybody. Okay? It could be open and closed doors. Now, the signs may not be there every time, but if it is there, are we discerning of it? There are some people who give God for every sign that they see. Not every time God speaks through signs, but when he gives us the signs, are we wise enough to understand these are the signs from him? Are we wise enough to understand this is what he's doing? I did it once in a very stupid way. He was protecting me from a particular situation and it removed me from that person. I didn't realize that. I was still immature. And very stupidly, I went back and connected with that person. And that person actually tried to take advantage of me. Then the Lord said, look, I'd already moved you away. Why did you go back? Next time I move you out of a situation, or I break some relationships, let it be. Don't go and do it in your own strength, because I have a bigger view. So there are times that there are signs. There are subtle signs, there are open signs. Are we aware of it? It could be the favor of God that we have in a particular situation. You realize that things are going so smoothly. Others had a lot of trouble, but for you, it was a smooth sailing. Okay? It could be increased spiritual warfare because you're walking towards your promise and the enemy doesn't want you to go there. Okay? It could be opposition from people. It could be people giving a false accusation about you. Are we discerning that these are signs that there is a confirmation, you're walking in the path of the Lord? Okay? So we should not be blind to them nor ignore them, because the Lord is showing us something so that He's preparing us for it, so that it doesn't blindside us. Okay? And we need the Lord's wisdom to discern it, because we are in His plan and His calling. It's like, if you have an Android phone, you can't look at an iPhone user manual. You have to look at an Android, right? So when you're in your path of calling, you cannot do what I am doing, because I am in a different path. So you have to do what God's asking you to do, and I have to do what God is asking me to do, and we need the wisdom to understand it. Okay? And we need to hone the gift of discernment. We need to sharpen this gift. God will give us the gift, but we have to use it. It's like, I can sing, but I don't come here and sing. So I'm not using that gift over here. But the gifting is there. Somebody else might have another gifting, but they don't come and use it. Then we are not developing in that skill. Okay? So this gift of discernment, we need to hone it in the wisdom of God, because we shouldn't be attributing something to Him when it's not Him. And when He is showing us something, we should not take it for granted or ignore it. We should be aware of it. When you talk about spiritual warfare, not many people believe in Satan, and not many people believe there is spiritual warfare. Or they go to the other extreme. You will do one mistake, but you will put it in spiritual warfare. Oh, the devil made me do it. No. There are sometimes we do some things, and there are times devil makes us do, does some stuff. So we should be discerning of the signs when there are signs. The sixth one is, are we listening to Him? Very, very important. If you look at God like a radio signal or a TV signal, okay, the signal is always there. Are you connected? Because if you've not tuned into that frequency, you can't hear it. If you've ever heard radio earlier, you will know. You have to slowly bring the dial to that particular frequency for you to catch whichever it is. In the old antenna type of TV, if you remember, we had to go stand there and turn the antenna in a particular angle before the TV you would see a clear image. Otherwise, you will see that snowflake kind of a thing. Now with cable, you don't have that issue. But unless you're tuned in, you cannot see. So if you want to see NDTV, you can't go to CNN and expect NDTV. So in these days, it's remote. Are you tuned in? Are you with the right channel? Okay. So if you have a very spotty network, on your phone, you'll know as you're speaking, suddenly call drop because the frequency is lost till you get back to that frequency. So are we tuned into God's frequency? Because He's speaking always. He will speak to you at any point of the middle of the night. Also, you can wake up. He's not sleeping. You might have been sleeping. He will speak to you. In the midst of a miry clay, He can speak to you. In the midst of your troubles, He can speak to you. In the midst of your joy, He can speak to you. When you're sleeping, He can speak to you. Are you connected and are you tuned in to listen to Him? Can we discern whose voice we are hearing? This is a good one. We are hearing a lot of things, but whose voice is it? Is it God's voice? Is it Satan's voice? It's our own voice, or it's somebody else's voice around us? Who are we listening to? And when we listen to these voices, are we able to discern and say, no, this is me thinking. This is Satan who's bringing these wrong thoughts. This is God speaking to me. Are we tuned in? This comes through relationship. Because that's what Jesus said, right? My sheep hear my voice and recognize my voice. They don't just hear, they know. So like in my house, if I call out my dogs, they'll come because they know my voice. Somebody else comes, they will bark, but they won't go if they call, because they don't recognize that voice. But if you're like my sister and me, both of us have the same voice. Even my mom and my son have been confused at times as to who. Even my dogs are confused. When we call, they won't know whether to go up or down, because one is upstairs, she's upstairs, I'm down. And our voice sound the same. So sometimes they see us, they don't know. My mom, if I had called on the phone and only said hi, she won't know if it's me or my sister. Mobile helps you that way, because the name will come up. Even Jed has sometimes been confused. So when human voices we get confused, are we able to recognize the voice of God? He is a good shepherd. And unless you have spent time with the shepherd, you cannot recognize his voice. Because Satan is the angel of light. He can imitate somebody else's voice. And your relationship is what makes you recognize your good shepherd's voice. And not just recognizing, are we actively listening to him? Whenever we do training or coaching or leadership or whatever, the one thing we tell people is listen actively. That means you have to keep aside distractions, you have to keep aside all the noise, and you have to listen without distraction or noise. Then these days now they've come to primary screen hook. That is, if you have to see a serial or something else, it should be where I can see, watch my phone, do things on my phone, and I'm watching something. So the phone has become the primary hook. So the whatever you're watching or you're trying to get attention should be more than the attraction of the phone. So the person will be also watching the phone and watching something else or doing something else. You can't do that with God. It has to be him and him only. If you're trying to connect with him doing something else, not happening. He wants 100% attention or nothing at all. Okay, so are we listening to him without noise or distraction? And the noise can be in our own head, it can be from outside, it can be social media, it can be so many other things. How are you setting that noise aside? Okay, what is the noise cancelling headphones you're using? Okay, to listen to him, not to listen to music or your phone or a call that's coming. When you're connected to him, what is the noise cancellation efforts you're taking? What's the distraction that you're trying to set aside and spend time with him? Okay. Seventh thing, are we obeying him immediately? Very, very important. Because delayed obedience is disobedience. I keep saying this because a lot of times he thinks, okay, I'll do it later when I feel like it. No. The shepherds did that. The minute they heard and the angels went away, they immediately left and went to see the baby Jesus. They didn't say, oh, we'll go tomorrow, we'll go day after, we'll go when we are free, I'll sleep in the morning, eat a well, and then go. No. They immediately left. I'm sure they left somebody to take care of the flock. They wouldn't be irresponsible, but they went immediately. And they went without doubting. A lot of times when we hear the Lord, we are like, Lord, is it you? Is it me? Are you sure you want me to do this? Especially when we don't want to do it, we will ask for more signs. Okay? And we won't do. That's when the delay comes. When we like something, we'll do immediately. Even before he asks us, we'll do. Okay? Do we take the right action? And do we stop doing what he asks us to stop? So when he says fear not, do we stop fearing not? Or do we continue to be in fear? Or cast your burdens on me? Do we put it on him and then say, no, Lord, you can't carry it. Let me carry it back. Okay, we talked about forgiveness today. Smith also spoke, Pastor also spoke. The Lord asks us to forgive people. How many of us forgive? I know it's difficult, but God doesn't say if you feel like it, you forgive. No, He says forgive, and it's a decision. If you look at forgiveness, it's a decision. It's not when based on your feelings. If Jesus had to go on to the cross, it was not his feelings. His feeling was to run away. That's why he said, Lord, take away this cup. But still your will be done, not mine. It was a decision that he made to take on our suffering and our curses and our sin. The same with us. We need to do that. It's a decision to obey the Lord. And it's a decision to disobey too. Okay. So when he asks us to forgive, do we forgive? I also wanted to add this one. We talked about, yes, forgiving people outside our circle is easy. Inside our circle is tough because what they do hurts us more than what outside people do. And the one person we forget to even think about forgiving is ourselves. We'll forget the rest. We'll forgive the rest of the world sometimes and never forgive ourselves and beat ourselves up. So also look at that. Okay. But when the Lord asks us to stop doing something, do we do it immediately? It might be a struggle, but do we at least decide to do it so that he can strengthen us? Or do we also take the right actions? Okay. The eighth one is, are we treasuring and pondering them in our hearts? That whatever God is telling us, the promises he's giving us, the word he's giving us. Mary did that. She first knew that the child was going to be born because an angel came and told her. Then the shepherds came and saw the child. And imagine the shepherds would have told, right? The angels came and told us, sang, and we came running to see. And Mary's keeping everything in her heart and pondering over it. She's treasuring it. She doesn't take it lightly. She doesn't take it for granted. Oh, yeah, I'm the mother of baby Jesus. No. She's still the humble self she's been, the mother of God. Okay. But she's treasuring everything in her heart. She's keeping it in her heart, thinking over it and wondering and pondering and in awe of all of this. When the Lord speaks to us, are we taking it lightly with doubt or for granted? Many of times we do this, but Mary didn't, nor did the shepherds. Are we treasuring his word and promises? Are we taking it again like, God said it? Or do we say, no, God said this to me. It's so important to me. It's like, you think of somebody, just close your eyes and think of somebody who praised you, somebody at a higher level whom you were trying to impress praised you. You keep thinking of it again and again, right? You feel good about it. The same here. Are we treasuring God's word and promises in our life? Do we ponder? Ponder is thinking, right? Do we think about what He has told us? Or have we forgotten? Sometimes it happens, He would have given you a word, we'd have written it down, and then we've forgotten 2 weeks later. Then when you go flip through your book or whatever, then suddenly, hey, God told me this. Okay, so are we taking it lightly? Do we hide it in our heart? A lot of times when God tells us something, right, it gives us a prophecy about our future. One mistake we do is run and tell people without even realizing whether they'll be supportive or not. There was a time I remember the Lord gave me a promise about my future, and one thing He clearly told me was, don't tell so and so. They were very close to me. They will never think bad for me, but they didn't have the maturity to handle me being in that position. He's like, "God, don't tell this person." I'm like, Lord, no. They will talk negative. It will discourage you and also go against what I'm saying, so don't tell. But I had to be aware of it. So a lot of times when certain things He gives us, before it comes to pass, we should be discerning as to who we tell. Now, Mary could have told the shepherds over there. They may not have understood it. She could have told the three kings. The three kings already knew that this was a king. But there were times she kept it in her heart. And that is what we need to learn. That are times we need to keep it in our heart and not proclaim it to everybody. Who we share it with is very important, because there is a time for everything. There will be a time you can go tell, but there is a time it's only for you, and you need to keep it in your heart, like Mary did. Very important. Ninth point is: are we sharing what our experience with the Lord happily? Are we sharing about His love, grace, and mercy, of His faithfulness, of His promises coming to pass in our lives, of things happening as He said it would, of His guidance, protection, wisdom, provision, so much, and all that He's done for us? Are we selfishly keeping it to ourselves? A lot of times we do that. When we call for testimony, hardly any of us come up. The very fact that we're alive and in good health is because of Him. And our testimony is to encourage others and to glorify Him. The shepherds did that. Whatever they saw, they kept telling it to people, and people were amazed at what they were sharing. Okay? Or are we sharing the joy God has given us? Because if we are truly, truly grateful, we will share the testimony. Sometimes it could be with only people, sometimes it could be up here. A lot of times we are connected with them. I remember when I was in office, suddenly He would say, share your story. And be like, Lord, this is a secular place. I can't share, you did this for me. Share. A couple of times I didn't. I was disobedient. But after that, I started sharing, and I realized when I share my story, people will open up and share their story, and I can pray for them. And those are the people who still keep in touch with me now, saying, hey, you made a difference in our lives. And I can share my testimony with them. Okay? So we need to be there, because what God gives us or does for us is always for the benefit of others. It's not only for us. We have to share it with others. If it's comfort He's giving you in a difficult situation, it's because you have to comfort others. If He's teaching you something through a difficult situation, it's so that you can teach somebody else. If it's a revelation He's giving you, it's to share it with somebody else. If it's healing He's given you, it's to share it with somebody else, because they will be encouraged by your story. Okay? And the last point is, are we giving Him all the glory? Very, very important. When good things happen to us, when He answers our prayers, when He performs miracles, signs and wonders, when He provides for us in the most miraculous way or in a simple way, when He protects us and He gives us so many chances, are we taking the glory for ourselves? Very easy to say, I did all this. But we have to realize we don't belong to ourselves. If we are a child of God, if we've been saved by Jesus, we don't belong to ourselves. He's already purchased us by His blood. And what He has given us, whether it's gifting, what we have, our own wisdom and thoughts, and everything is His. In Corinthians, it says, what are we boasting about? What you have is His. What you have is from Him. What you don't have is because He's not given you. So why are you sitting and boasting? So where can we take any glory? Because what our very life is His. He has bought us with His blood. So no matter what's happening in our life, are we giving Him all the glory like the shepherds did? So this is very, very important. So no matter what in your life, are we listening to Him as He's speaking? Are we connected, tuned in, and obedient? And are we giving Him all the glory no matter what?